Hi, Eugene Segovia here with the EZStudRack. I had a video, 2 months ago on how to store these little ink packages for or ink pads. These are classic stamping ink pads. You use a lot of these at crafts. You got the little stamp where you stamp. Anyway, the one package of EZStudRacks, you're able to hold 52 of these. Emails were coming through, hey, can you give us some kind of instruction on how to build these? So I talked to a few people at Craftroom, and they mentioned that, hey, it would be nice to be able to store the ink with the pad as well. So we got a new and improved storage for your ink pads. Now you also got holes here on the side so you can store your ink with whatever ink pad you got. You're able to store 52 ink pads, and you can store 52 plus a whole extra row of inks just in case you buy extra inks. With these, if you keep looking at the video, you'll see instructions on how to build this thing. Just did it step by step. When you order your 1996 package of EZStudRacks, if you're going to build this ink pad and you want the instructions, I got instructions here of what size to cut the wood and all that. How to measure it out, and I follow these instructions on the video. Also, I'll send these little cutouts. That little cutout, I just use one, but I send one with 4 of them on it, is you're able to cut and just use a nail or something to mark out all your little holes for your little ink pads or ink bottles. Now some of these ink bottles are slightly different, but on these instructions, these are 15/16 in diameter. You might go a little bit bigger, but it'll feel a little loose. You have to drill your hole a little bit deeper. So there you have it. Follow the instructions if you want to keep listening to the video, and let me know whenever you order your package. Make sure in the little memo or the note that you comment and say, please send me ink pad instructions, and I know exactly what to include in your package. Eugene Segovia here with EZStudRack. What I'm going to do today is, a while back I did this little ink storage for Craftroom. Took one package of EZStudRacks, and these things laid out perfectly to where they would fit. It stores about 52 of them, and I was asked to do a video to show how it all went together. So I'm sitting here, it's cold outside, so on my pool table I'm going to demonstrate how you can create this. I've already pre-cut the wood so to avoid all that, but I'll give you the dimensions on it. Also went ahead and created a pattern that you can use. Whenever you order your EZStudRack, you just ask for the ink pad pattern, and I'll send you these instructions. Tells you what size to cut the wood, what to order. Well, not really what to order, but basically it took about 2 8-foot 2x4s. I went ahead and got some tack screws to attach the plywood on the back. I bought this package of 20 screws, and that's exactly what we're going to need to screw the 2x4s together. That's all it is. It comes with the bit and everything. The ink, I bought this 15/16 Irwin paddle bit. That was probably the most expensive item, which was $4.68. I spent a total of $17.90 on all these items. Well, these items. Scissors, you're going to need scissors, a hammer to nail the tacks in. This always helps to have. Tape measure. When you order it, ask for these instructions. And I'll also send this big sheet where you can cut these little pattern out so you can use it. The reason I made this is because the EZStudRack, whenever you install it, you want to leave a 1/2 inch gap right here. And I went ahead and included that in this pattern so you can go on the side and just mark it. Also, when you line up the pattern to the edge, you can either take a screw and lay out where you're going to drill, or you can use one of these if you have one. Just poke it through. As you can see, I don't know if it's going to be easy to see on this video where the holes are. So when I take that paddle bit, I'll drill that out. Once it's all put together, that'll be the last thing we do. Alright, let's get started. So, according to the instructions, I cut this 2x4 23.5 inches. So we have 2 of those cut at 23.5 inches. These right here are 13 and 11/16. Cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was easier for me to buy 2 2x4 by 8 footers versus you could get away with 1 2x4 by 10 footer. Now the first thing that you want to do is you want to attach this piece of plywood in the back. This piece of plywood was a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. Doesn't really matter. All it's doing is kind of keeping this thing from getting out of square. And the size of that piece of plywood is 16.5 by 23.5. So I bought a 24 by 24, ended up cutting it. The pattern that I talked about, if you ask for it, you'll get this 11 by 17 sheet that you can cut these little go-by patterns on. So first things first, we'll mark where we want the EZStudRack to attach. So I'll come in here, just mark it. Since this is one of the edges, I don't need to mark the other side, but might as well. We'll do that. And while it's on here, I'll take this guy or one of your screws and just mark all the locations of where you're going to connect this. So I've already started some of this, or where you're going to drill the holes. These holes are for your little ink pads. The spacing is 1 1/16, but it's a lot easier to just have this pattern. You just punch a hole where you have it. Now, does it need to be perfect? No. I mean, this thing's, all you're doing is putting these little drilling holes and putting these little ink pads. It fits a little snug, so if you want to use a bigger size, you can. I'm just trying to avoid it from falling out. So we'll do the same thing on this other one. Punch your hole, mark your sides. Now a lot of this is going to be repeat. So if you want to fast forward through all this, you can. There we have it, all marked. See if we can see this on the camera. You can see the little holes and the marks on the edges. So the next step, come in and attach your EZStudRacks. The 3 in the middle will have an EZStudRack on each side. The ends will only have one. With your package of EZStudRacks, you'll get 8 EZStudRacks and your packet of screws. Since Since we are using 2x4s, these will work. Your packet of screws will. Line up the top edge to that line we put. See the line? We just line up that top edge. That way it gives it the right amount of gap. I always like to let my screw ride on the magnet of the drill. And when you line things up, you use your fingers to kind of, it's okay if it sticks beyond it. You just kind of line it up like that. Hold it down. We'll try to hit the center of that hole. Line up the bottom. Since these are very light items that are going to go on here, I would just put 3 screws. There's enough for 4, but just do 3 screws. This one's going to have it on both sides. Line up that to the line. Oh, one thing I want to point out. Whenever you attach your EZStudRack, there's letters that says patent pending. Make sure that the letters are always to the right side up, because that way when you screw, your screws will pass each other. You notice they're zigzag. So just make sure they're facing in the right direction. There's text on the top, no text on the bottom. So always keep the text in on the same side. Text, same side. Text here, text here. The last one, so we don't need one on the other side. Okay, that part's done. Make sure your holes are facing the top, or your little dots that you put in here. That way you won't have to do it again. Line up the bottom. Now in the instructions, I give you the spacing. As you can see, you always start from one edge of the board. So I started from this edge of the board. I'm going to measure 5.5 inches, then measure 11 inches to the edge of the stud, 16.5, and of course the last one is all the way to the very end. So we'll start with the ends, attach them, and then space out the middle ones. But first I'll start by marking this. I always like looking at the 2x4 and the best side. I always like leaving to the outside. Take your pencil. First measurement's going to be 5.5 inches. 5.5, I'll put a mark. The next one's going to be 11 inches. 11 inches, I put a mark. The next one's going to be 16.5 inches. 16.5 inches, I put a mark. And then the last should be 23.5. So we'll do the same thing on both sides. So you got 5.5, 11, 16.5. So basically the edge of your 2x4 is going to be right at those marks. That leaves enough gap for your thing to fit. So if I got them lined up, gap, gap, and gap. Okay, next step is we'll take our pack of screws. These have like a self-drilling end, which comes in really handy. And it comes with its own little bit. So we just take that bit out and put this bit in. Now the hardest part about this, you got to remember, is that making sure you're square. And that's why I cut this piece underneath it, so you can kind of line it up on the edge. And you want to aim towards the middle of the stud. So I'll come in here and line it up. It also helps to have one of these guys that come in and out. So when you put your screw in there, it helps hold it. Now what I'll do is I'll come in here. A lot of times I don't need to measure, but since we're doing a video, your stud is 1.5 inches. So the center of that stud is 3/4. So you could come on this 2x4 and just measure 3/4 in. So 3/4. And you could put your screw right there at that 3/4 mark. I'd do that to both sides. That'll help get it started. 3/4. Doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you have something to start with. Now with those marks there, I can use this guy and put downward force on it to start it. See how I'm holding this guy that goes in and out? Really easy, make it real easy. Get that one going. I'll go ahead and put all of them in here. Be careful not to get too close to the edge. See, this one here might be a little close to the edge and it might split your wood. Now if you notice the mark I put there, did I hit it exactly? No. Does it matter? Not really. I just want to get it close from this distance from the out in, so you hit the center of this guy. Now for those of you that already know all this, you can just fast forward. But I'm doing this for those who This might be the first time they're trying it. It's really easy. Okay, now we could lay out the centers of all the screws, but I think we're just going to go ahead and attach the circular frame or the square. Make sure your lines are facing up that you already put on there. We'll try this again, lines facing up. Just align it to the edge. Align it to the edge. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the plywood underneath it to make sure I'm following the edge. That kind of gives me an idea of it being square. Kind of hold it. Since I am on a pool table, I have this bumper here that's in my way, so I'm going to have to lift it up a little bit. Now sometimes you end up where it doesn't butt up against it. The thing to do with that is just go in, reverse it, let it fall down, and then go back in. This one got really close, but I reverse it, let it drop down, and go back in. So now that gap is gone. Is this thing square? Let's find out. What I mean by square is it perfectly 90 degrees. As I put it on my back, I can clearly see that it's not. I got a bigger gap here. So not a problem. All you got to do is pull it out. That's where this back plywood, when we install it, it's going to come in handy. Now, it didn't line up quite to the edge, but we're not building a space shuttle, so we can let those little things slide. It's going to need to come out like that, and in. Kind of hard on this pool table. There we go. This one here didn't seat up all the way, so I'm going to back it out. Let it come together. There we go. It's pretty close to getting square. Okay, now, once you finish this part, now is the time you want to attach this backboard to it. So what we'll do is we'll start by just lining up this top piece right here. And adding your little tacks. These particular tacks are 3/4 inches long. You always want to do the corners first. Get it pretty straight. And I'm going to go ahead and do this entire side here, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Okay, now we have this side in. If you can see, this isn't exactly lined up straight. This side's sticking out a little bit. What we'll do is we'll just hold the back and just try to push it to where we need it to go. I mean, it's pretty tight. So it's going to have to take a little bit of effort. So what we'll do is we'll hit a couple of tacks in, but not all the way in. That way when we push it, we'll be able to just hit these tacks in to keep it in place. Okay. It'll help if you have help. Trying to do this by yourself is not the easiest way. A lot of times what will help is if we loosen. We'll loosen the opposite corners. Yeah, because this is really tight. The reason I'm showing all this is because you want to be able to everyone's going to run into these problems, and it's just a lot easier to move. We'll go out a little bit more. You don't want to take them out too much because you want them to still be aligned to the edge. There we go. I'm just going to loosen all of them. Usually I use a nail gun for this, so it's easier to keep everything level. Screws are better. Okay, loose. There we go. Now it's real easy to move. I don't know if you can see that in the video. So now we can easily get it to line up. Hold it down. Now everything's lined up. I'll go ahead and finish nailing all this. You know these nails going on. We're only storing ink pads. With the more nails you use, the sharper it is. Make sure you hang this on the wall, you can use that bottom of the screw through. There we go. Okay, now that that's on, we'll go ahead and finish screwing these screws in. Before I screw these all the way in, I just want to make sure these boards fit. Yeah. Line them up to the lines that we put earlier. Text facing in the same direction, just because I'm nitpicky like that. Text up. There we go. These fit easier. Always do a check. Always do a check. Here's why. Look at that gap. Way too big. Right, way too small. And what happened? This thing flipped backwards. Boards need to go on the opposite side. Always do that check. You'll probably fast forward through the video, miss that one part, and make the same mistake. So there we go, check. A lot of times what I like to do is go ahead and insert these. That way you know for sure that everything's going to fit just right. Because wood's not created perfect. Okay. Okay, now you want to kind of make sure things are right at your line. Shift around if you need to a little bit. Sometimes these woods are a little warped. So what we'll do is we'll start in the center and work our way out. Do it this way so you can see in the video. All we're doing is trying to aim for the middle of this stud. 2x4. I'm just putting one screw for right now till we get everything lined up. See, that's a little tight. That one's loose. Well, this board needs to move over, but since we screwed this all in, it's a little hard to tap it over. It moved over a lot more than I wanted it to move over. So we'll just take it on out. Move it over. Always do your tests. There we go. That one's a little tight. We just need to move it over. There. If you notice what I'm doing, I'm pushing on this end to really give it some force so that bit doesn't slip on the end. A lot of people know that. Those who don't, that's a little tip. Always check, always check. This one's still loose. You want to kind of maybe center it. A little tight because it knocked over. So we just got to make sure we move this guy back to the line. That's why we put those lines there. Just as a reference so you know if something moved. Okay, so we've attached one screw on each one. We'll go ahead and finish the remainder of the screws. But for this, do it this way so we can put some downward force. There we go. Now, last step, which is probably the easiest part, but probably the messiest, is to go in and drill these. Now, if you can see, what I did is I just put a piece of tape. That's as far as I want to drill in. It doesn't take much. You could drill it in more if you want. That's about 1 inch, give or take. See the holes where we lined it up? Like I said, it's the messiest part, but everyone has a vacuum cleaner, right? That guy just pops. It's a little tight. Some of these are smaller than the others. But it's just tight enough to hold it in place. The 1 inch might be too loose. This one you can just kind of move it around like this, move it around, loosen it up a little bit. If you don't like it that tight. Does it need to be perfect? No. Remember, this is just ink you're storing. There we have it. So that'll finish up what we're doing here. The rest is just going to be me drilling that out. So you can see here, the ink will fit. These inks have color on it, so you want that sticking out. And you align the same color to the same ink. There you have it. Wobble it around if you want a little bit looser. Now remember, wood shrinks and expands depending on the weather. So there you go. Rest of this video, I'm going to kind of have the vacuum out here and vacuum it as I drill. Creates less of a mess. One of the things I want to point out, the end ones, the screws that are on the side, sometimes you might hit them. So be careful that when you put the screws on the side, you don't, when you're drilling it, not to drill too deep. battery's dead. So we can either get a corded drill or just wait for the batteries to charge. What I'll do is I'll finish this thing up and then do a final video. It's the same thing through all these. Okay, went ahead and just got the handy dandy corded drill just to speed things up. So this screw right here was really close to the edge, so I couldn't go down deep enough to even store one of these. So remember that whenever you're drilling these holes, or the screws on the side. So what we'll end up doing is I'll end up taking it out and moving it, just because I like to use that spot now that I drilled it. So we got the old design, no storage for ink. Took one package of EZStudRack's. We'll switch it over to this new. You got spots for your ink. As you put your storage in, you put the ink that corresponds with this one hadn't been opened yet. So it's got a little wrap around it. We have it. 52 slots available, and you got more than enough ink holders. This is a different style ink, so it looks like the bottle is just slightly bigger. There you have it. Same design, just using 2x4s with the extra storage in between for your different inks.